Count. 5.
6! Potato!
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1.
Oh, yeah, that's that mahi, boy. That's that mahi.
Kia ora koutou whānau and welcome to the NZR Around the Grounds from New Zealand Rugby, bringing you closer to our national game. Today we're going to discuss Balance is Better by Sport New Zealand. Balance is Better is about creating quality experiences for young people to keep them active and in the game. It's about young people staying in sport for life and realising their potential at the right time. We are losing young people from sport and they're missing out on the opportunity to be physically active and reach their full potential. If we're going to change this, we need to improve what's happening at the grassroots. We need to think about how we can put the fun and skill development back into kids' sport. We know if kids don't have fun, they stop playing sport. The Balance and Better philosophy centres around 3 myths of junior and youth sport that rugby supports. Myth 1, early specialisation is good. Myth 2, childhood successes lead to adult successes. Myth 3, successful athletes focus on winning. To discuss this through his own experiences and journey is Balance is Better ambassador and current All Black Will Jordan. Welcome to the studio, buddy.
Thank you. Nice to be on here. First time, I think, actually in the studio. So,
Is that?
Yeah, excited about it. And a good campaign, too, to talk about.
Mate, thanks for coming in. Firstly, I do have to mention the game of the weekend. Like, well done. I want to say well done on a few fronts, and you guys are also humble, so I'm going to do the work for you. Well played, mate, because I know you haven't played as much rugby this year as you wanted to, but to see you jump in and not just play really well and jump back into the team seamlessly, you played really well, brother. So congratulations, mate. It must have been awesome to be a part of that event at the weekend. Like, it was epic. I was at the game and actually went with the whole kids. I took 3 kids, took the wife, sister, and we had a hell of an evening. So well done, mate. You must have loved it.
Yeah, I did. I think it was a bit of a special evening, really. I think great to see the fans turn up at Mount Smart, not our usual home, but there was a pretty passionate crowd there. And I think, the boys are pretty excited about where we're heading at the moment. I think the last couple of years haven't always been smooth sailing, but I think this year it's only been a couple of weeks, but we've started off well. So there's a good feeling in the group. And also personally, I think you don't realise how much you miss it until you kind of back out there. Yeah. So, it was great to get back on the pitch and get a couple of touches and just really enjoy being out there was the main kind of positive I took from it.
Mate, and that probably really helped. A couple of touches early, a couple of really positive touches early, and then you'll probably hit the ground running and happy days. Yeah,
I think so. It really was like that. I think the first passage of play took about 5 minutes before there was a stoppage
awesome.
And had a couple of runs in that. So the lungs certainly got a pretty good test early. But, it was great. I think we obviously had a bit of a game plan around trying to get the ball to space, and whether it was Bodie or Richie or Geordie with the cross kicks or the long passes, managed to kind of get a few touches early, which was great. And for whatever reason, we're kind of starting well at the moment. So it was nice to have a little buffer after that first 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, look, well done, mate. Hopefully a sign of things to come, and you guys can keep building through the next 3 warm-up games and into the big dance at the Rugby World Cup. Mate, I want to talk a little bit about Balance is Better and want to talk, for a start, mate, where's Will Jordan come from? Like, what was your upbringing? Are you Crusader man, Canterbury man through and through? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, born in Christchurch to a family. Yeah, good start. Got an older brother and an older sister, mum and dad, so they kept me honest when I was growing up. My brother and I, particularly, a lot of cricket in the backyard, and we actually lived across the road from Riccarton Bush in Christchurch, so a bit of open space to go over and be able to go and kick a ball, and just love being active when I was younger. Sport was always a huge thing for me. I was a pretty competitive little bugger, so I enjoyed that side of it. But just love being active and being able to be out there. So lucky to have a supportive family and had a great childhood growing up.
Mate, I think that's always a little bit of a key criteria, isn't it, to have an older brother or someone else just to drop school bag, head straight out and get into it. Like, I know you probably had many an argument and many a battle when you were younger, but actually when you look back at it now, it's almost one of the great tools or skill developers as an older brother, isn't it?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, I feel pretty sorry for our neighbours looking back because the amount of cricket balls and probably verbal sprays they heard from over the fence was probably a bit untidy, but it was. I mean, I used to love going out there and having a battle with him, and him being 2 years older than me made it a bit tougher, but it certainly gave you a drive to try and perform. So, it was great. Love being able to just grow up with him, and also it was good to have someone that you could kind of play around with as well.
Let's be honest, mate, there's nothing better than getting one over the older brother, is it? So, I mean, primary school, etc., like, were you lucky in terms of where you went to primary school? There was lots of things you get involved into. You know, did you just focus on footy and cricket, or you were sort of into everything?
Into everything, I think, really. I went to Fenelton Primary, and I guess looking back at that, you think of days like cross-country, athletics, sports days, that was all going on. I guess outside of school, I was sort of playing rugby and cricket as my main sports, but lunchtime, whether it was playing ball rush or league, rounders in the afternoon as a young kid, used to love that, an afternoon off to head out into the field and play rounders. I think rugby and cricket probably my two sort of main sports, but around that, love just giving anything a go. My dad was a keen sort of tennis and squash player, so used to give that a nudge as well, but I think Fenelton as a school were always kind of pushing the be active and the benefits of that to us.
Mate, I've no doubt you did pretty well on the 100-metre sprint. How did you go on the cross-country? Like, it's always can be a test for, you gazelles. Like, could you hold it, over the course of, 2 or 3 Ks? You Townies, though, did run quite often like a soft cross-country that was just kind of around the block, not like these country kids. But how did you go?
We probably had a couple of Ks around the school boundary a couple of times. I think I've always been a better sprinter than a long-distance runner.
Sure.
Don't have a big of an engine as a few of those boys. So I was always doing okay, but I didn't usually win it, or might have been in the top 4 or 5 and got to go to Horsell Quarry for the zones or something. But it wasn't something that I was, particularly passionate about or that good at.
I like it. Hey, but nothing like a sort of half day off school was there as well. So, but for you, when did you realise that rugby was the sport for you, or that you actually thought, look, I'm not too bad at this? Like, when did that start being on your radar?
In terms of when I thought rugby was the sport for me, like, not until really late, to be honest. Like, it probably wasn't until I left school that it was a case of this could sort of become a career or a profession or anything like that. I think growing up, it literally was a case of rugby in the winter and cricket in the summer, and whatever sort of season you're in was the flavour of the month. So I guess, I made a few rep teams and stuff in kind of both sports going through the grades, but wasn't in sort of New Zealand schools or anything like that. So for me, it was just about enjoyment. I think, particularly I look back on the cricket scene, like, I had a bunch of guys who I played with from when I was sort of 5 or 6 through to 18, and they're still some of my good mates now. So when I look back on why I love cricket so much, I think it was really just that group of mates I had, and me or my other mate used to be the captain, so we'd always sort of stack the slipcord on with sort of 3 or 4 of us, so we could just stay around and have a yarn, no matter how well the bowlers were going. So that was cool. And then, like I said, as I sort of left school and went into a bit of academy stuff and that, and got a bit bigger and a bit faster, that's when it happened a bit quicker in terms of a profession. But before that, it was really a case of just playing it for fun.
Mate, I reckon that would be actually a good content series, is just mic'd up in the slips listening to rubbish chat, wouldn't it? There'd be some absolute rubbishy chat throughout the course of the cricket. There's some terrible chat.
16, 17-year-olds just talking all sorts. I'm pleased there wasn't a mic on us, actually.
Oh, mate, yeah. I'm old enough to spend my youth without social media, and it was a very, very good thing. Mate, you were part of the Christchurch Boys High School First 15, and while, you said there before that you're prominently playing, rugby and cricket for fun with your mates, which is awesome. There are First 15 is still, it's awesome, isn't it? And there's high-pressure games, and you play Christ College at Christchurch Boys High School. And did you think there was any pressure on you in those days? And if so, how did you handle that?
I think definitely once you got to First 15 level, there was a little bit of kind of external and internal pressure coming through. I think Boys High in particular has got such a history of, Christchurch Boys as it is, of producing All Blacks and doing well. So you did feel that heat a little bit. Particularly when it came to like the college match and those big traditionals, but those were sort of cool to experience as well. Yeah. I think what really helped our First 15 was that our coach was a guy, Reece Archibald. Archie, bit of a legend down there. He was always just pretty big on kind of just playing heads up rugby, backing yourself, and not sort of getting too carried away with, I guess, structures and what was going on and TV games and that sort of thing. He was really just about, if you see a gap or you see an opportunity, then just take it and don't worry about the consequences or the ramifications of that. So I think that's something that to this day I still trying to hold on to, but I think looking back for our first 15, it was pretty huge in terms of our mindset and kind of the positive brand of footy we were trying to play.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you had really supportive parents who just got on behind you, and I do know Arch a little bit, and I know he sort of, he just tries to back you, doesn't he? He doesn't get too stuck in the structures or too much of the big halftime speeches. He's just like, go there and have a crack, boys, which is probably something that really suited your personality and your group of mates, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. I think starting off with mum and dad, they were, again, just keen for me to be active and play sport, but they weren't too fussed around how I went or anything kind of coming from it in terms of professional and stuff. So they were just happy to see me out there, and they loved coming down and supporting me, and my grandparents would come down as well, so that was always cool. And then, like say with Arch, I think, just being able to go out there and back yourself and knowing that your coach or someone on the sidelines kind of got your back regardless of what happens was pretty huge for me. And definitely kind of helped mould sort of the player that I've sort of become.
It was like we were saying before, mate, before we got in the studio, like, you're now an All Black, you've now been playing Test rugby for quite a few years, and you're fortunate enough to be coached by some of the best coaches in the world. You got Foz and Joe Smith and Jace, like what a group, Razor down the Crusaders, how good. But actually, talking to you now, and I'm the same as you, albeit a much poorer rugby player, is like you really remember your youth coaches, don't you? They're extremely influential. Like what your coaches and your parents say to you and how they frame you up when you're young is important, isn't it? And now that you're off playing high-level rugby, you still remember that stuff. You still remember the messages they gave you at that age. Yeah,
you do. I think it sort of started when you were at a really young age and you had like friends' parents and stuff coaching, and them just being able to have a laugh and not take themselves too seriously for a start was always huge. And definitely grateful for the parents who are volunteers who are helping out a couple of times a week post school and then on the weekends as well. And used to love heading down to the club rooms and having a wee fizzy and a thing of chips or hot chips or whatever, and just running around and kind of enjoying that sort of club atmosphere. Played one junior rugby for high school old boys and did really enjoy that. One thing I did sort of reflect on when we were talking about coaches before was actually my old first 11 coach, Matt Parr. And I remember his big thing around cricket was that there was sort of 4 dimensions of it. You had batting, bowling and fielding, which were sort of the main ones that most people thought of. And he always sort of stressed the 4th dimension, which was around being a good teammate, ability to sort of perform in big games, doing the little things that kind of created a good team environment and culture. And I think it's probably it's only been in the last couple of years when I've sort of thought a bit more about it, about how kind of special that was to have at that age. I think the boys' high first 11s had a bit of a success of doing well. I think when I was there, they might have won 7 or 8 Elite Cups in a row, and I think that kind of 4th dimension that he touched on, and guys not just playing for themselves but for the greater team, was a really big thing that kind of led to that success. So that's definitely one that stands out. And then obviously over the last few years I've had some great coaches, whether it's Razor or Foz, Andrew Goodman, and you take little bits from each of them and you're grateful for the experiences that they've had that they can kind of share onto you.
Mate, that's awesome. I love to hear that. That's awesome. And Matty Parr's a great man, isn't he? Unfortunately, he's taken his skills to St Andrews, but we won't
hold that against him.
We're not, it's all right. It's all right. Mate, for you, never in doubt, were you always going to play rugby? Were there times when you thought I might give it a break? Like, was it? Has it always been a fait accompli, or have there been different times when it, perhaps you're going to look at other things?
Yeah, a little bit. I think when I was a real young fella, like sort of age 5 to 10, I was probably faster than sort of most people, so I was reasonably good, and I sort of was enjoying that. And then as I went to high school, I was sort of a bit late on the growth spurt point of view, so I was one of the sort of shortest in the class and lost a bit of speed from that. So probably around like under 14s, under 15s, I wasn't really enjoying my rugby as much, and actually thought about stopping playing my under 15 year. And again, it was actually Arch who sort of pulled me aside, and I guess just sort of, he saw a bit of potential in me I probably didn't see in myself, and he encouraged me just to sort of stick at it, keep playing. And so I thought, I'll give that a go, and played for another year or two, and then ended up making the first 15, obviously, and then what's happened since then. So there definitely was a point where I wasn't enjoying it as much, but the ability to kind of stay in it, keep involved in the game, has had a massive impact on my life. And that might not be the case for everyone, but I think definitely the stuff you get from sport around camaraderie, the team nature of it is huge. And yeah, very grateful that he had those words for me because, yeah, who knows where I'd be if that hadn't happened.
Good work, Archie. Good work.
Yeah.
Mate, you spoke a little bit about cricket, and I want to ask you, like, what role did cricket play during high school and at different times? As you said, it sounds like it was a good time. You played it with mates, but, perhaps, actually looking back now, probably really important to sort of break rugby seasons up and no doubt probably really, really good for your skill level. It sounds like some of the coaching tips from Matt go across any number of things you've done.
Yeah, I think just basic hand-eye coordination, the fitness side of it. Can't play rugby the whole year round, so being able to kind of stay active and keep your hand-eye and your skills kind of going was huge for me. And as well as that, some of my biggest role models growing up were cricketers. I remember watching Brendan McCullum and, you go out in the backyard and try to play like him. And so there was that side of it too. But yeah, definitely what stood out for me when I reflected on it was just the people that I did it with. And that was what was special about it. And that's probably still what I even miss about not playing too much cricket these days is just not having that sort of feeling the slip cord. And unfortunately at the Black Clash game, I haven't quite made it into the slip cord yet. I think you've got to be over the age of sort of probably 40 to get in there. So
Totally.
maybe in 15 years I'll be in there. But definitely it was great being able to stay pretty active during the summer, and then literally summer would finish, you'd be playing a game on the cricket pitch the week before, and then next week you'd be into rugby. So it was awesome. And
also too, like we were talking before, you have all these amazing memories and experiences at the moment through being in All Black, and it's fantastic for someone like me to watch. But I'm sure that you can reflect really clearly on playing for Christchurch Boys High School in the Gillette Cup and going to Gillette Cup finals and going out to open the batting and being nervous. And I'm still those things. Those are probably experiences that you remember really well.
Yeah, definitely. I think also tours we went on. We're lucky to go on a couple of school trips to Japan with rugby and Aussie with cricket. And then for those Gillette Cups, we'd stay in camp at the hostel. And those were some pretty special nights, having the team together and little sort of tour environments and just living together and being able to throw around banter and whatnot at night was pretty special. And I was lucky enough to win a Gillette Cup when I was year 12, and also unluckily didn't win one in year 13 and felt the heartbreak of that.
Who got you?
Hutt International Boys High School, actually.
Oh, Hibs, there we are.
We actually went to a super over in the game against them. It was a round robin, so it wasn't quite a final, but we were sort of looking like we were going to be the two teams going for it.
Did you bat in the super over?
I did go out and bat, and this is not that good actually. a guy, Ben Sears was playing for Hibs, who's played a couple of games for the Black Caps. Real quick. And so I went out in the super over, and last thing Matt Parr, the coach, said to me before I went out was, you don't have to slog everything, just normal cricket shots would do it.
Okay.
And as a sort of 17-year-old, I was thinking, that's gone in one ear and out the other. Unfortunately, I'm going out there and I'm sending this first ball over the ropes for 6. I'm going to be a hero. And then I ended up lifting my head up to the roof and got clean bowled. And then the next guy came out and he got bowled as well. So we actually got 0 for the super over. So the dreams were scuttled. But that was a bit heartbreaking at the time. But going back to the nerve side of it, I don't know if there's anything more nerve-wracking than going out to face your first ball in cricket. It's a huge relief when that goes past. And even in playing in big test matches and stuff, talking about the Black Clash, the first ball I faced in the first game there would generally be just about the most nervous I've ever been. So, it's cool.
Yeah, mate, awesome. And those things cross over so much to what you're doing today and doing it so well. Look, there's one of the myths in New Zealand sport is successful athletes focus on winning. What are your thoughts on that, mate?
I think it's what a lot of people associate sport with is the winning and losing side of it. When I think about that, I think about the amount of sort of golf matches I've lost over the years, and if that was the case, then it wouldn't be going too good. But no, I think when you sort of focus on, I guess you talk about outcomes versus processes, and I think when you focus on outcomes, then it can be a bit detrimental to both your sort of mental health and your mindset going into games and going to sporting events. So I think really just trusting around what you're trying to do. And I think the main thing for me has always been about trying to maximise your own kind of talent or abilities. So going out there and being the best version of yourself is something that I've kind of tried to do throughout my career. And I think it's a reasonably good kind of mindset to have for anyone who's playing sport, because ultimately you can't win every game. So there's always going to be another Monday after that. There's always going to be a game the next week. So how you kind of bounce back and the learnings you take from the experiences that you get is crucial.
Mate, I want to ask you about the Crusaders, a really successful environment that you're in. Like the things you just spoke to there, is that literally the fabric of the team? You know, like there's so many things in the outcome you can't control. You know, there's so many things you can't control when it comes to sport, but there's a big part of what you guys do down there, and maybe as a little insight to your success is just really focusing on yourself, the process, how you can help the team out. Like are those things just day in, day out for the Red and Blacks?
Yeah, I think so. I think the first thing that's kind of drilled in a bit at the Crusaders, just like be yourself. I think if you can be yourself and you're comfortable in the environment, then that goes a long way towards performance and playing well. So that's a big one. And I think also just understanding a greater purpose. I think the great thing about a team game is that you have got teammates around you, and you do share the field with a bunch of other guys who've got the same goal as you. So just being really excited about doing your role as part of the greater team is something that I think the Crusaders have done pretty well, and Razor's been a reasonably big part of that with the kind of environment he's created. But I think it goes before that, before he was involved as coach. So, I think the environment that you're in is hugely critical around how you can go out there and perform and be at your best.
Man, and I think that you've nailed something there around, I mean, that's sport and that's a team, isn't it? It's a collection of different humans. But if you want to get an outcome, everyone's got to have their role to play, and you've got to trust and respect other people in the team. The one thing I see about that, and I may be right or wrong, but whether it's the Crusaders, when I see you mixing with those lads, when I see you mixing with the All Black boys, I know it's high pressure, I know it's high performance sport, but it seems like you're mates.
Yeah.
It seems like you get along really well. A lot of you guys have a lot of shared passions and interests, so you come together on those things, but it generally seems like a group of people who really like each other's company. Yeah,
I think so. I think that's the beauty of our job, and when you hear old players reflect on their careers, it's probably what they miss the most about just going to work every day, and you're generally with guys who are your best mates, and that's ranges from, I remember when I first came in, I was probably 19 years old, and you're out playing golf on the Wednesday with Israel Dagg, who was 30 or whatever, it's a bit of a unique environment in that sense, but you have a lot of fun along the way, and you share a lot of special memories together, and like you touched on, the different personalities you have are what make the group, whether it's a guy like Sevu Reece, who, has a bit of a character and he's there creating laughs the whole way, or it's a Sammy Whitelock with so much experience and guile and now sharing his experience. Everyone's got their sort of role to play, and I think having that diversity is great, and it keeps the group fresh. Mate,
100%, and that obviously can come in a high performance environment, but it can come through to a club environment, a school environment, can't it? And I'm absolutely of the thought that sports and teams and communities are the best health tool that exists, isn't it? They are just great environments to be a part of. Mate, also you touched on a little bit there, but I can assume, at times it can be hard, and whether it's just the repetitiveness of training, whether it's having to sort of hit high levels week in, week out, how important is a positive attitude during this stuff?
Yeah, it's hugely important. I think, in the daily kind of, I call it a grind, but in the daily routine you can get in, it can easy to sort of just roll over day to day and lose the moment a bit. So I think for me, structure is really important around having a plan around what you're trying to do to get better. I think if you don't have that in place, then you can sort of get caught in the washing machine a bit of going by day to day. So I think for me, on a Sunday, I'll map out what I want to do that week and what I want to try and sort of achieve. And I think that just gives you a bit of purpose, and you can still have flexibility within that and change as it goes. But
change your tea time or something, can't you?
Exactly.
If you can't get it at 9, you might get on at 10:30.
Exactly. If it's frosty in the morning or something, you might have to change it. That's always important. But and touching on that golf side of it, having balance is hugely important. Whether it's the work stuff you've got on, catch up with mates, or for us, golf's a big way to get away from the game and the pressures and have a bit of fun. It still can be pretty competitive out there with a few of the lads, but ultimately it's just about going out there and doing something that's not footy, chatting about stuff outside of work that we don't often get to, and just enjoying it, being out a bit of fresh air and loving it, and hopefully hit a few straight.
I love that, mate. And look, you score a lot of tries, and I put my hand up and say in the rugby teams I was in, I didn't score a lot of tries, didn't have a lot of pace. But I'd like to think I put out the odd dime, but I may be telling exaggerated stories. But the point being, you need some skills, you need some expertise to do that stuff. What's your thought process like on the field, and how does it make you feel? And I know, God, mate, you scored a try on the weekend against South Africa in front of a huge crowd, and you also put on a couple of assists, how does that make you feel, mate? It's got to be pretty good.
Yeah, touched on the one on the weekend. Actually, just reasonably relieved when I scored it. It was a pretty decent juggle in there. The ball actually went straight into the light, so I kind of lost it. And just about, yeah. I'll say that anyway, but just about butchered it. But yeah, so a bit of relief on the weekend. But I think, I mean, scoring a try is always fun. And I think most of the time it's just a bit of a team thing, especially as a winger. You're kind of on the end of the chain and take a bit of a credit for it. It's a bit like the hookers on the back of the mall. The rest of the full pack's always a bit gutted they don't get any chocolates, but it's all part of it. And I guess when you score the odd try where you're sort of running a bit further, whatever, and you kind of hear the roar of the crowd and stuff, I mean, that's can be pretty cool at a packed out stadium. But yeah, I mean, it'll be remiss for me to say you can't take too much credit for it for a lot of the time because you are just sort of, as I say, at the end of the chain. And sometimes actually you get a bit more satisfaction actually from the build-up of it and the great team tries. Like we had a couple on the weekend, like with Shannon Frizzell, made that great bump down the sideline. Moments like that are, pretty cool. And you can kind of see that from the boys' reactions. I mean, you get an odd special try like that, then the boys are a bit more jubilant than usual.
Mate, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head there in terms of like a couple of the assists you put on the weekend were off the back of like 3 or 4 minutes of just some of the best rugby I've seen the All Blacks play for 6 to 12 months. And even the try you did score was Bodie identifying space, probably something you guys worked on during the week. And to see it sort of come to fruition on a Saturday has to be hugely satisfying because it's the environment, it's the process, it's the mateship, and you get the, like you say, you get the meat pie, you get the chocolates at the end of it. But the lads generally all get satisfaction about the whole process, don't they? Yeah,
I think so. Particularly in during a week, you've obviously worked through a lot of stuff, and we obviously have plans around the kicking game and trying to exploit them that way. The big boys rolling up their sleeves through the middle and going to work. So when you see that kind of come to fruition and be successful, then it is a pretty satisfying feeling. And that's a whole group thing as well. It's the management, the way they've set us up in the week, the coaches. So when you have a team win like that, it is great to kind of revel in the success you've had and just really enjoy being a part of a full team effort. And it was great to see, I think for the coaches as well, particularly, like they've really set us up the last couple of weeks with a great plan to go out there and succeed. And in the game, you make adjustments and stuff, but ultimately that initial game plan's hugely important. So big rep to that crew for the work they're doing.
Oh, mate, it felt like Foz and Joe had a couple of fingerprints on even the sort of attacking box kick from Nuggie that you almost got on the end of as well. That looked, very much like something that was planned for that game. So it's so cool to see that stuff and to acknowledge it. Mate, you have had a few injuries. And the reality is, bigger, faster, stronger the lads these days. That's going to happen in footy. It's it is a part of the game. How do you overcome this though? Like, what keeps you going, and what do you do to sort of keep yourself balanced and sort of focused during those times?
Yeah, I think like I touched on before a little bit, like structure is really important. And just understanding day to day what you can kind of do to either get healthier or improve is huge. So both the Crusaders and the All Black medical teams have been great during injuries or setbacks I've had to kind of create that. I think when you don't have that, that's when you start thinking about kind of what ifs and uncertainty in that, and that's can be a bit of a dangerous space to be in. So I think just getting the information from the right people and just a bit of resilience. I think like you got to know that eventually the kind of tables are going to turn and you'll have a good run, and then just being grateful for those moments when you're there. But like you say, it is a bit of part and parcel of our job these days. So you've got to kind of maybe not enjoy, but expect and get through those moments. And I guess it makes the moments like you have in the weekend and whatnot a bit better for it as well, knowing that you've been through a bit of hardship to kind of get there. So but the main thing I'd sort of drum around is just that structure can be great in that space.
Oh, mate, obviously, I mean, that's obviously something you lived, because the way you're able to come back and hit the field running, after a bit of a layoff from the All Black jersey was extremely impressive. So well done, mate. I wanted to ask you, look, what's sport done for you? I know, because I think a lot of it will go across not just the professional game, but a lot of other things. Like, how important has sport been to you so far in life?
I think, hugely important, particularly when I was a young kid, like being able to go out there and just expend some energy, show a bit of flair and your almost personality in your game. And like I said, I was pretty competitive and pretty active, so I just loved getting out there and not necessarily so much competing, but just being out there and moving and enjoying it. And as well as that, like most of my best mates in life are guys that I've met through sport. And that's the main thing I take from it. And when I retire and can't sort of move anymore, that's what I'll remember will be the moments with different people, not necessarily the actual stuff on the field. But yeah, that's a whole variety of sports. Like I've touched on rugby and cricket as my two sort of main ones. Now it's golf, at least once a week. Love watching the NBA. Get a huge satisfaction out of watching those athletes, guys like LeBron and that. Just a different kind of level. So take a lot from other sports as well. So yeah, for me, it's been a pretty huge driver in my life, and physically, it's kept me really fit, and also mentally, particularly golf's a huge one for me mentally, around getting away from whatever's causing me problems and being able to have a bit of a laugh and not take yourself too seriously for 3 or 4 hours, hopefully.
Oh, mate, golf teaches resilience. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one to finish on. Firstly, best golf score ever?
Best golf score ever is a 75, which I shot a couple of years ago. Which
Mate,
was,
off what handicap? When you shot that?
It was off about a 12 handicap, so
That is burglarish.
I think it was
That's
about
beautiful.
45 stable for points. So the boys weren't happy about it, but honestly, like particularly when we go on tour and we play golf and you play different courses you haven't played and different types of grass and all that, there's all a bunch of things that go into it. But I've had some like really tough days where I've raised the bet triple figures off like a single digits handicap. So
It's a bit double-edged, isn't it? Because the All Blacks and Crusaders, no doubt, are able to get on some lovely golf courses.
Yeah.
But they're also quite challenging.
yeah, definitely. I think we've played some great courses. I think we played one last year in South Africa called Leopard Creek, which was just like basically wild bush around the fairways the whole way, and there's sort of signs with snakes and spiders and genuinely leopards running around. So if you hit a ball in there, there's no going in to look for it. So you're just dropping it far away from that bush as possible. So it's great though, being able to experience different environments. But yeah, you certainly try to remember the better days more than the bad days, because the bad days are probably a bit more often, unfortunately.
Mate, last question. If there was one scalp in the All Blacks golfing group that you'd like to take, who would it be? Be honest, mate. If you're not happy, we can edit this later if it needs to. But who would you genuinely like to take?
I'm gonna have a bit of a cop out and sort of give like two sort of things.
No,
is
right.
that yeah. A guy who's just always great to beat is Anton Leonard-Brown.
Yeah.
Like he's just a great person to be on top of in life. But he's actually not that great a golfer. He's probably he's not too bad. He's off about a 15 or 16.
That's fair.
Which is fair. So he wouldn't mind me saying that as well. But I think, if you can take down the top dog and Geordie Barrett, who's basically off a scratch, then you've had a pretty good day. So he's probably the one I'd like to beat the most, but probably most satisfying and the guy you can give the most stick to is Anton. So that's always fun.
I can see Geordie being, when it push comes to shove, being quite competitive as well. So, like, if the opportunity was there, putts on the final holes, etc., I can see him.
There has been a few, a few indiscretions over the years. I remember Quinta Pai actually got the nickname Tarzan. Me and him were playing Geordie and another mate in a match, and it came down to the last, and it was all square, and I've sort of hit this ball behind this tree. And they were over the other side of the fairway, so we didn't actually think they could really see us. And so Quinton's got and held the brush back so I could get a bit of a full swing to get down the fairway. And I ended up making par, and I think Geordie's made a 6 or something. And they got a bit awkward on the 18th tee there. Probably not legitimate, and I don't encourage cheating in the game of golf, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So, Quinn's sort of known as Tarzan in the environment now, and that's why. But, Geordie, he's obviously a good golfer. He knows the rules and all that, but he's pretty good around it.
Mate, that's a great yarn to finish off. And like, actually, when it come, how good those boys. 3 of those boys in the weekend. Geordie getting his 50th. Scooter getting, 200 is it? Bodie on the field as well. Like, geez, what a great servants of New Zealand rugby they are. And how well are they playing? Scooter, how well is Scooter playing? My goodness.
Scooter, he's just gone to another level at the moment, I think. Yeah, both for the Crusaders and now for the All Blacks, he's going out there and week to week kind of getting it done, which is pretty impressive. And it's like we touched on at the start, obviously me playing cricket with my brother in the backyard. I mean, it must just be awesome for those Barrett boys to be able to be out there, kind of living their dream together. They touched on it a bit in the sheds on the weekend, but I mean, the other thing is that there's probably opportunity for them to keep going. Geordie and Scooter re-signed for another couple of years.
Awesome.
Bodie has said he might be back, but obviously already racked up 100 tests, so they've still got their legacies to ride, and it's awesome to see their growth and the way they're playing at the moment.
Mate, great time to be involved. Thank you so much for coming in, mate. I know you've probably got a tea time or somewhere to get to, and enjoy the week off. And also good luck when you get back into it. As I said, mate, you're going really well, and wishing you the best of luck for the rest of the games, and of course the Rugby World Cup at the end of the year. Cheers, mate.
Thanks very much. It's been great.